Hello, and welcome to this online lesson. Today we'll be talking about the first Americans that crossed the land bridge and came to North America. So, let's go ahead and get started. So, this massive migration to America happened roughly 20,000 years ago. Glaciers covered about 1/3 of the Earth's surface, and so much water that we see today in the oceans and even in the Great Lakes was frozen in these glaciers that pieces of dry land began to emerge. The Bering Strait land bridge between Asia and North America, so that would be present-day Russia and off the present-day coast of Alaska, that had formed because all of this water was dried up. And this gave the early peoples a pathway to this new world. So this land bridge was known as Beringia, and if you look on the map on this slide, you can see kind of where it would be today on a present-day map. And the reason that all of these new peoples came to the New World is because these were groups of hunters that crossed the land bridge following herds of mastodon, prehistoric deer, and buffalo. This all happened during the Ice Age. And during the Ice Age, these groups of people that followed the herds of wild animals around because that was their food source were known as nomads. And nomads are people who move from place to place in search of food. So over the next 1,000 years, these nomadic groups spread across North, Central, and South America, becoming the tribes that we know of today, such as the Haudenosaunee, the Shawnee, the Powhatan, the Cherokee, the Lakota, the Cheyenne, the Apache, and many other tribes that you can see right here on this map. So as these groups began to spread out over the vast North American landscape, they began to evolve, especially in terms of how these societies acquired food. They moved from hunting societies where they were following the game from place to place in order to feed themselves and their families. Then they became hunter-gatherers, which they still hunted, but they also relied on the nuts, the berries, the seeds of the earth to sustain their appetite. And finally, they began to start farming. And this is what led to the creation of larger villages and civilizations. So a little bit more about the hunting societies. These were the first groups to come into North America. They followed the big game animals across Beringia into this new world. The herds of mastodon, the herds of ancient elk and deer and buffalo. And these nomadic people followed the game from place to place in order to feed themselves and their families. While these big game animals provided a great food source, and they also provided a source of clothing for the peoples, they began to disappear. So hunters began to look to different food sources. They began to fish, hunt small game such as rabbits, and they began to gather seeds and nuts and berries to sustain their appetites. And as these hunter-gatherers began to learn more about the land and the seasons as they changed around them, they began to develop techniques for planting and growing different crops. They were able to tame animals and plant more crops, and they had developed an advanced system of agriculture, also known as farming. These people began to build permanent villages, and giant civilizations emerged. That about wraps things up for today. Next time we'll be talking about civilizations, what they are, what characterizes a group of people as a civilization, and we'll see you next time.